All right, let's get started. This is Josh on Zoey's partnerships team, and we welcome you to another one of our Zoey Merchant webinars. Today we are covering a very timely topic. We have a sales tax boot camp for Zoey merchants featuring our partners TaxJar. We've got Lizzie on the line with us who's going to present momentarily, but we want to remind you really quickly about the webinar series if this is new to you or if it's been a while since your last time joining us. Inside the software, there's a questions feature where you can submit your questions for the Q&A portion, which will take place after the presentation. So if you have any questions that come up during the presentation, no matter how big or small, please feel free to submit them using that questions feature. We'll go over any and all questions that we can during the time allotted. And if there's any questions we can't get to by the end of the presentation, we will send out an email with answers as a follow-up. We also want to remind you that we regularly are scheduling merchant webinars. We are going to have another one scheduled shortly that's going to be about 2 weeks from now. So visit zoey.com/merchant-webinars to see the upcoming webinars that we have available. You can also view recordings of all of our previous webinars there. So if you can't make a session, we do make that recording available for viewing. So thank you for those of you joining us live, and for those watching the recording, you know what I'm talking about. We're not going to belabor this. Actually, that's a wrong title, so forgive me. This is a sales tax presentation, but I'm introducing here Lizzie Greenberg from TaxJar, who's going to speak a little bit about some topics of interest. This is actually a really important time of year for many merchants because there's not just monthly filings, but quarterly filings, and so it's usually top of mind right about now. So without further ado, I'm going to pass the presentation over to Lizzie, and we'll get into those topics.
Awesome. Thanks so much for the intro. You're right. This sales tax, for a lot of folks that are joining us either live or later on via recorded session, sales tax is definitely something that comes up most often in July. So we're excited to be able to give you this education, answer any questions, as it might be timely for a lot of merchants right now. So let me switch to presenter view. All right. Can you guys see everything all right?
Yeah, it looks good from here.
Okay, great. So I'm going to give you guys a sales tax bootcamp for Zoey merchants. So the goal of this is to help you guys understand what sales tax is. It can be really confusing and complicated for a lot of folks when they're just getting started. Or even if you're doing sales tax and spending a lot of time on it, it's definitely something for a lot of merchants that are running pretty lean businesses that it doesn't make sense for you to spend time on doing it. So we're here to help you understand what you need to know and then how you can get to a point where you can completely automate sales tax. And we're going to talk a little bit about what sales tax is and then get straight to the automation at the second half. All right. All right, so again, the goals today here cover some sales tax basics. I'm going to provide you a lot of resources for help in the future as well. So if you have questions after this or during it, please give your questions over to the chat box and we can answer them now. But if you have any other questions in the future, we have tons of resources here at TaxJar that can help you figure out exactly what you need to know for your Zoey store and for your business in collecting sales tax. All right, so quick intro. My name is Lizzie Greenberg. I'm head of marketing here at TaxJar. A little bit about me and kind of my qualifications for being able to educate you on sales tax. So I have a passion for using technology to solve problems for small businesses. I've been working in marketing and in the tech space for a long time, but specifically I run a small business selling jewelry. So I have personally been a taxpayer in California and Texas, which are two of the worst states to file sales tax in since 2004. So I know what you're talking about. I know what you're going through in terms of being a merchant and filling these obligations with sales tax. So I'm right there with you in the trenches. I'm not a CPA or a sales tax professional. Here at TaxJar, we are a technology company. We are not CPAs. So if you have specific questions about your business, and we will, if we can answer it, we will. If you're looking for sales tax advice, we will often recommend you to talk to a CPA. But with that said, working at TaxJar, we've talked to thousands of online sellers. We support over 9,000 sellers every month, and we have awesome customer support. So we're always talking to sellers. We know what's going on. We talk to a lot of pros, CPAs within the space, auditors, and also the states as well. So we work directly with every state in terms of our automated filing product, and so we are pretty much the ones who know what's going on in terms of sales tax and where it's going, etc. So I'm here to help you make informed decisions about sales tax. So if you have any questions, this is a little bit about me. So I'll get started. All right, so pretty much anyone that comes to us and wants to figure out what they know about sales tax, their goal here is to get sales tax understood so that it can go away. So I'm sure a lot of you, if you're watching this, are feeling the same way. No one looks at sales tax and says, ooh, I can't wait to do more. So everyone wants to figure out sales tax and have it go away. So that is our goal here, is to educate you on what you need to know, just enough, and then help you figure out how to make it go away. So we'll start with some basics. So if you're new to sales tax, these are going to be some basics that you need to know. If you're already collecting and understanding what's going on, this may be a little bit of a review. So within the U.S., sales tax is something that's actually managed at the state level. So a lot of folks say, oh, I need to collect sales tax because I'm scared of the IRS. The IRS is actually not involved in this. It is at the state level. So there's 45 states within the U.S. and D.C. That collect sales tax. So there's some states that you may know of, like Oregon, New Hampshire, et cetera, that don't collect sales tax, and that's great. But what you need to know is that there's about 45 states that are collecting sales tax, and each of these states have different definitions of when and why and where to collect sales tax. So some things we'll get into that are related to this are different laws around what creates nexus, which we'll define a little bit later on, which things are actual taxable. So where do you need to charge sales tax for your business on certain things? It differs state by state. The rates are obviously different state by state, which most people know. And then also the filing due dates are different state by state. So if you're collecting in multiple states, you may have to file a return every month on the 20th, the 25th, the 31st, etc. So it's not standardized, and essentially chaos prevails. The other thing to remember about sales tax when you're getting started as well, and one thing that people are really scared about because it's money, it's going and coming, is to remember this is a pass-through tax. So sales tax should be something that you collect from the customer and pass through right back to the state. So you're essentially like an agent collector of the state and are passing that money right back to the state. So don't think about it as something where you're going to have to collect all this money and pay it out of pocket. Sales tax should be something you collect, remit, and you're done. It shouldn't be costing your business a lot of expenses in terms of covering sales tax for your customers. All right. So this is a quick map to show you where you can collect sales tax in the U.S. So the states that are in green are the places that you should collect sales tax in. The places that are in white are the places where there is no sales tax. So you can take a quick glance at this map here and see, based on the states that you're in, the states you do business in, where you need to be collecting sales tax. All right, so first up, trying to figure out, what my item that I'm selling is actually taxable or not. So should I even worry about sales tax? So in general, the rule is that tangible items are taxable. So there's some exceptions with clothing and food, which I'll get to in a few minutes, but in general, if you're selling something that's physical that you ship in a box, most likely that item is taxable. Services are generally not taxable. So there are some things going on with different states, etc., and you can keep up with some of the software as a service type info on our blog at taxjar.com/blog. But essentially, generally, if you're thinking about your business and knowing whether or not you need to look at sales tax, generally, if you're shipping a physical item, then you probably need to start thinking about this. So a lot of Zoey merchants, if you guys are selling retail, this is something you definitely need to be aware of. So the other thing that's really tricky and varies state by state is shipping and gift wrapping. So shipping and gift wrapping, each state has their own laws whether or not shipping and handling is taxable, and gift wrap as well. So that's something you definitely need to know about for your store. All right, so I'll do a quick review of some common things people ask about. So first of all, you're selling a lamp. You're a lamp store. You've got an awesome Zoey store to sell your lamps. Yes, this item is generally taxable. And here's where we get into some of the confusing areas. So if you're selling shirts in your Zoey store, there's some places where you need to charge sales tax on that shirt, and there's some states where you do not need to charge sales tax on that shirt. So for example, in New York, if you're selling an item that is clothing under $75, it's exempt. But say the shirt was a really nice t-shirt and you charged $125, in that same state, it could be taxable. So this is where the complications get into with sales tax, and it gets even more fun. So grocery items, grocery and food can be taxable and not taxable in certain states. Some states it's a reduced tax rate than the full sales tax rate that you would find with other tangible goods. In some states they're completely exempt. And then in some states it depends on if the item is a grocery item or a prepared food. So I'll show you an example of that in a second. But shipping and handling, as I said, taxable and not taxable. Depends on the state that you're shipping to. And then this is a fun one. We always like to have a little fun here in the sales tax world, but a bagel. So here's a bagel, generally not taxable as a grocery item. However, when you slice that bagel in half, it becomes prepared food, and now this item is taxable. So these are kind of, we joke about the bagel and the sliced bagel because it just kind of points to the craziness and the chaos of the sales tax world, because essentially it's the same exact item, just whether or not it's been prepared or not totally changes how much you as a merchant are responsible for charging your customer. So keeping track with this can definitely become overwhelming depending on how many products you sell and where you sell them. So take a deep breath. We're going to help kind of break it down and figure out, okay, now you know the product that you're selling, whether or not it's taxable or not. Now I'm going to walk you through exactly kind of figuring out where you're going to collect and how you start going about actually collecting the sales tax. And the good news is, keep in mind here, there's light at the end of the tunnel. It can be automated, and I'll definitely show you how to do that at the end. I'm going to walk you through determining how you actually figure out what states you need to collect sales tax in. So what the heck is nexus? Nexus is a term, if you've done any kind of sales tax research, you most likely have seen this term come up, so sales tax nexus. It's kind of scary. It's not a very fun word. But I'm going to break it down for you and what nexus actually means. And this will help you, if you're a merchant right now that's saying, oh no, sales tax, I need to collect in all 50 states or all 45 states. The answer is no, not quite. Figure out where you have nexus. And so don't be overwhelmed by sales tax at this point. You don't need to collect sales tax in every single state if you don't need to. So here's where you figure out whether or not you need to. So nexus is, what does nexus actually mean? It's a presence or connection to a state that's significant enough for you to be required to comply with their sales tax law. So basically what a state is saying is, hey, if you're doing business in my state lines and you're here as a merchant, then you need to start collecting sales tax. So if you don't have a presence in a state where you have nothing going on in Wyoming, then you don't need to collect sales tax in that state. But if you have a presence in a state that you're doing business there, you need to collect sales tax. So now we're going to get to how do you actually define what does significant enough mean, and how do you make that decision for your business. So there's a few different definitions that will help you kind of understand what it means. So the first one is your home office. So anywhere where you're located, even if you run an online business that's completely, it's all happening with drop shipping all in the cloud, anywhere that you have your home base where you're sitting there at your laptop or your home office, you need to collect sales tax for that state, because it's pretty obvious that you're operating your home business from that state. All right, the next thing is brick and mortar. So this is something most people are pretty familiar with, especially in the retail world. If you shop online, you'll see that, if you ship to certain states, you get charged sales tax. If you have a retail brick and mortar location in any state, that automatically is nexus. So you're doing business in that state because you have a physical location in that state. So that one's pretty common knowledge there. The next thing is if you have employees in a different state. So if you have an employee that is working for you in a different state, you need to, that person is doing business in that state and gives you sales tax nexus in that state. Same thing goes for salespeople. So if you have a sales team that is out of state, anywhere you have a sales rep that is working for you in a different state, that is another place where you need to collect sales tax. And then trade shows. Trade shows differ by state, but it's something to definitely take a look at if you're a heavy trade show business. There's some states where if you attend a certain amount of trade shows in that state, they consider that a significant enough presence to have sales tax nexus based on the fact that you keep going to trade shows in that state and are selling to folks. And then lastly, one of the things that is most applicable for sellers that are Amazon sellers or any other sellers that are using any kind of like fulfillment services is whether or not you have a warehouse and are shipping goods directly to customers. So if you're shipping goods directly to customers from a warehouse, and that's the next one as well, this generates sales tax nexus. And so if you're, for example, using Amazon FBA, Fulfillment by Amazon, having your products stored in a warehouse, an FBA warehouse around the country, any one of those warehouses where your products are stored, that gives you sales tax nexus. So it can get super tricky depending on how you run your business, how you fulfill your business. But the first step is figuring out, okay, any state that I have a sales tax nexus in that state is a state that I start out that I need to be collecting sales tax in. So you've gone from now understanding that there's sales tax in all these different states to figuring out, okay, do I even need to collect sales tax for my business? To now, okay, where do I collect sales tax? So now you've got this list of places based on these criteria that your business needs to collect sales tax for those states. All right, so the next step in figuring out and understanding your sales tax is figuring out when should you collect sales tax. So do I collect sales tax on every single purchase that I ship everywhere? Do I, when do I do this? So the answer is you collect sales tax when the item sold is shipped to a state where you have nexus. I'm going to go through an example, but just to reiterate, you're looking at where it's shipped to whenever you're shipping something. All right, so this is your business. You're Joe. You're this fancy Joe in his sweater vest. You're based in Akron, Ohio, okay? So you know, based on the fact that I'm based in Akron, Ohio, Joe has nexus in Ohio. So he's going to charge on any sales within Ohio. So based on that, he makes a sale. He sends that item, he sells his widget from Akron, Ohio to Lakewood, Ohio. And based on that, he now has to collect sales tax on that purchase. But let's see what happens if Joe ships his widgets from Akron, Ohio to Massachusetts. If he ships something to Massachusetts and he has no nexus in Massachusetts, he does not need to collect sales tax on that purchase. And that's okay. That's the right thing to do. A lot of people say, oh no, I need to collect sales tax on every purchase. No, no, no. You only collect sales tax when it's shipped to a state where you have nexus. So this is that person that bought his widget from Massachusetts bought that item without sales tax, and that is correct. All right, so now you understand if your product is taxable, whether or not you need to collect in certain states, how you determine what purchases you need to collect on. So now the next thing is how much sales tax are you actually supposed to collect? So how do you figure out what's the rate for my states, etc. So this is where things get extremely complicated based on which type of state that you're in. So we've already determined that a state where the item is shipped to determines your sales tax rate. And there's two different types of states, just to be general about this. There's a few other nuances, but we'll just say these are the two most popular types of states out there. So it's either an origin-based state or a destination-based state. So an origin-based state, what that means is the tax rate that you charge is based on the origin, so based on the seller's location. So in that scenario where it was Akron, Ohio, if Akron was an origin-based state, you would charge the rate in Akron for the item that was shipped to Lakewood. So wherever you are as a seller, you charge the tax rate of your own city. And then essentially it's the same rate for the entire state. So if you're an origin-based state, so for example, Texas is an origin-based state, it's really actually not that difficult if you are filing in that state because it's really just kind of one rate per state for the most part. The thing that gets really tricky is if you live in a state that is a destination-based state. So what that means is the tax rate that you charge on that sale is determined by where you're actually shipping it to. So if you're shipping it to Lakewood, you need to charge the sales tax for Lakewood. If you're shipping it to a different city, Cleveland, Ohio, you need to charge the sales tax of Cleveland. So you need to figure out the sales tax ahead of time to be able to calculate the right amount at your point of sale. So it's a variable rate. You can have millions of different, or not millions, but thousands of different combinations of rates that you can have for any destination-based state. So destination-based states, if you live in one already, it's definitely going to be something you want to think about, and you're probably more confused on sales tax than someone who lives in an origin-based state just right off the bat. All right, and then how do you figure out the actual, what makes up the sales tax rate? So a sales tax rate is typically a sum of a few different applicable rates. So you may have a state rate, you may have a local rate, and then you may have another, list of rates that are things like a special district, municipal district, transportation, education, maybe all these little things. So you may say, okay, I'm here in Houston, Texas, and the rate is 8.25%, but that 8.25 is a combination of, 6 and a little bit for the state, plus some local, plus this, plus this, plus this. So the rate that you may know for your city that you live in right now is actually a sum of a bunch of different rates. It's not just your one state rate. All right. Deep breath. Everyone take a deep breath. We're making progress. So now we kind of understand the basics of when to charge, what to charge on, how much to charge, and how to figure out what to charge. So now I'm going to talk specifically about Zoey and the solution that we have to help you figure all this and manage all of it on Zoey super easily. All right, so managing sales tax on Zoey. So you have the awesome opportunity to be able to manage your tax rates by county or country, state, and zip code. You're able to also apply different specific tax rates to products and customer classes. So you can assign a tax product or a tax rate for specifically clothing versus groceries, etc. You also have the ability to import rates in manually with a CSV or a spreadsheet, but you also have the ability with TaxJar to connect to TaxJar and get our rates real time. So you don't have to, we made an improvement with the Zoey connection that we have, and we don't actually have to rely on spreadsheets anymore and CSVs, but you can actually get real-time rates at your point of sale. We're really excited about that. So I'll show you a little bit how you set that up. So sales tax on Zoey, you go here inside your store admin area, and then you go to setup and then select tax. And then here you'll be able to configure your TaxJar settings within Zoey. So you'll need to enable it for your checkout. You'll connect to your TaxJar account as well. And then you set up your Nexus addresses. And you need to set up your Nexus addresses because you need to tell TaxJar where you have Nexus in order to know where we should calculate the right sales tax rate for you. So first you need to sync your Nexus addresses. There'll be a link to that once you enable checkout and click yes. There'll be a link to sync your Nexus addresses from right there. And then once you've set that up, from there you could just test your checkout and make sure to see that wherever you're shipping something to within your checkout is charging the right amount of sales tax to make sure you've set it up right. So it's a pretty quick and easy setup. And then if you have any kind of product taxability, product tax classes, you can set that up as a secondary as well. You'll see all those links right under getting started. And I have a link here that I'll show you guys that has information on exactly how to do this, a step-by-step guide that we've written. And if you run into any questions as you're going or have any issues with Zoey support, we have an awesome support team that will help you with TaxJar. So when you're setting this up within Zoey, if you have any questions, you can reach out to us and we'll help you get it all squared away. All right, so this will help you be calculating the right amount of sales tax at your point of sale. And then we also have an option for backup rates, which is essentially a CSV upload of zip rates. So our calculations are based not just on zip rates, on a lot of different rooftop accuracy, but we do have the option to upload zip rates as a backup. So for any reason, TaxJar has a 99.9% uptime guarantee, but for any reason our rates failed, and we don't want your checkout to stall. And because of that, we have the option for backup rates to make sure that we'll back up and default to probably like a pretty accurate rate for you, so that you don't not charge sales tax on any type of checkout that you have. So this is an awesome feature specific to TaxJar to make sure that your checkout will never fail. And then here's where you can find us. You can find us on the Zoey App Store. You can click the app, and I'll go over a little bit of pricing and kind of what we do in addition to the calculations. But this is where you can find us. If you're familiar, just go to the tax category within the App Store. All right, and so just to recap how you can connect to TaxJar and what we can do for you, you can add TaxJar from the App Store. You can follow our guide specifically on how to get this set up. You sync your orders for automated sales tax reporting and filing, and then we automatically import and refresh your rates each month and give you the accurate calculations. So we'll upload those backup rates for you, but you'll have the instant calculations via our API with a connection from the App Store. So you never have to worry about finding rate tables or downloading anything like that to try and make sure you have the right rates. We automatically ping our API at your point of sale and make sure that you're good to go. All right, so the last step, and kind of the step that I think scares most people when they're dealing with sales tax, is filing. So once you've collected the right amount of sales tax, so the state has, you figured out all the rules, you figured out what you're selling, where you're selling it, where you're collecting, and so now in your business you've collected, say you've collected $1,000 in sales tax. The next step is to actually go and tell the state, hey, where do I put this? I collected this $1,000 for you. And just as a caveat, you definitely want to register for a sales tax permit before collecting anything. You never want to collect before you've registered. So once you've registered with the state and they say, okay, now it's time for you to file your sales tax return with us, here's how it works. So when you register with the state and you tell them, hey, I'm going to start collecting sales tax on your behalf for my business, they'll give you a frequency. And so the state will say, based on your volume of sales, typically the more tax you collect and the more your business is making, the more often they're going to ask you to file. They obviously want the money. So they'll assign you a frequency that's either annual, quarterly, semi-annual, annual, or fiscal annual. So typically you may start out with something like a quarterly or monthly. I don't know why we don't have monthly up there, but definitely monthly. I think it's because we have annual twice. Sorry about that. And so you may have monthly as well. So based on this frequency, that's basically your schedule for when you need to remit your sales tax back to the state. So let's take a quick look at a sales tax return. So the tricky thing about certain states, and certain states are a lot easier to file than others, I will say that. California is typically a very confusing one. So when we talked about how the sales tax rates are made up of a couple different things with the state tax, the local tax, all the municipalities, etc. When you go file your sales tax return back to the state, they're going to ask you to report the sales tax you collected back to them in the way that you collected it. So if you're selling on any kind of other tools like Amazon or eBay, etc., all these places are collecting the right amount, but when you actually go to remit them, it's up to you to figure out based on, CSV exports of all of your sales and everything that you made, where did this ship to and what city, county, etc. did that, transaction relate to. And so TaxJar does all this for you. So you look at the amount that you collected in California, and it gets broken down by Alameda County, Alpine, Armador, and the state will want you to break this all down for you. So this can take you a couple hours a month, depending on your sales volume, could be a lot more than that as well. And so if you think about, this is something you don't want to be spending time on, you want to be spending time growing your business, not sitting here filling out sales tax reports, because it's not obviously driving any profit for your business. So here's an example again of the California one that I showed you. And then here's an example of TaxJar and what we do. We automate this entire process. And we'll give you here, if you look at the bottom, the Schedule B breakdown, county tax. We break down exactly everything you collected by each county that you'll need to fill it out for on the form. So we make sure that everything that you have here in TaxJar exactly matches what the state is going to ask you for. So you don't have to do any calculations, any kind of pivot tables, macros, VLOOKUPs, anything like that to figure out how much of that sales tax you collected and how to remit it. All right, deep breath. Another deep breath. So this is where, for us, it gets really fun because we get to show people how you can take all this information that you've learned so far and take it to the next level. And not just understand it and get it and start to do it, but really automate it and forget about it because it's, again, not something that you want to be spending your time on. So how do I even get started? How do I do all of this stuff? Here's where we're here to help. And so, again, you can do all of this on your own. It's taxes, There's so many different ways you can do it. We offer a solution to help you, make it easy and make it simple. But again, you can do all this yourself if you'd like to. So what we do at TaxJar is we help you with pretty much every step of the process. So we have a ton of content on our blog, on our YouTube channel around education of, how do you figure out Nexus? A lot of the stuff I went over today, we go into a little bit deeper content on our channel. So if you want to learn more and just educate yourself on sales tax, we're there for you there. When you get to the point where you say, okay, I know I have Nexus in the state and I'm ready to register, we'll help you register. We'll connect you with CPA partners that will register in as many states as you want. We also have a DIY option where we have a blog post that tells you every single state you need to register in and the links and the fees associated to do it all yourself. So you can really figure out how much you want to do yourself or how much you want to outsource to someone else. Once you've got that registration, you can link on to TaxJar. We'll start to import all of your information from your Zoey store and break down everything you need by how much sales tax you've collected and how you need to file it. And then lastly, we can help you completely automate the filing. So I'll give you a few screenshots of how this works. So again, find us on the App Store, connect to your Zoey store, make it really easy for us to import all of your data directly from your store. Then we'll show you this dashboard that will say, hey, okay, here's your summary. For every state that you're collecting, here's how much you actually collected. And then you click on the green or the orange button up there that will say Sales Tax Report. And the Sales Tax Report will break down everything you need by the city, county, jurisdiction, et cetera, that you need it for. I skipped over this. We also help you figure out if your sales collection is off. So if you're selling on any channels that are doing the automated calculations, so not with your Zoey store, but for example, if you sold on Amazon and we say, based on the number of sales in your Nexus with Amazon, we can take a look at how much you collected and look at how much we expected you to collect and say, hey, maybe you didn't set up your Amazon sales tax collection right. And, here's the difference. So to help you troubleshoot and make sure that if you're trying to comply on all of your channels, that you actually are complying correctly on all the channels. And then we break down your reports as you can see it, but then the best feature and probably our most popular feature that we're really excited to announce is now fully available everywhere is called AutoFile. So this is where you have all that information that you've imported into TaxJar, all of the information from your reports that we've created, and you basically click this magic blue button here and say, TaxJar, deal with it for me. I never want to deal with it again. So we're automatically going to continue importing all of your info from your store or any of the channels that you sell on. and then we're going to auto file. So what we do is we electronically file directly with the state on your behalf every time. We have a guarantee about that as well. So if for some reason that we ever didn't file it, we're on the hook for it. So you can always trust us, rely on us to file on time every time. So some states also offer early filing discounts. And if you're using AutoFile, we get you those discounts and give it back to you. Sometimes it can be a couple %, which is just a nice thing to have. Another benefit of enrolling in AutoFile is that not only do you just not have to deal with any of the filing and state websites, etc., but you don't have to remember any due dates. So you never have to have this calendar that has all these different X's based on different days where you need to file in all these different states. You just say AutoFile and never worry about it again. And so one of the things that I mentioned in the beginning of this was that we're really excited that we now offer AutoFile in every single state. So any state that you are collecting sales tax in that you would like to automate, by connecting your store to TaxJar and selecting AutoFile, you're able to fully automate end-to-end everything that you need to do. And we're really proud of our customers. We love our customers. We have over 9,000 customers every month, so we're filing a ton of returns, as you can imagine. And these are some of the customers that we're proud to partner with. And yeah, we'd love for you to be one of them. And then our pricing. So our pricing starts at $19 a month and scales as your business. So basically, we charge based on the number of transactions that you're importing into TaxJar every month. So for your Zoey store, it would be a combination of, essentially it would be the number of API calls or number of times that you're pinging our API to get the right amount of the rate. And then once we have that rate, it automatically gets imported into your reports. So if you think about it roughly about how many transactions you're doing per month or how many times, how many kind of cart calculations you have per month, that'll give you the best estimate. And we have no contracts, no fees, anything like that. What you can do is do a free trial and set it up and take a look at how it works, see our reports, cruise around, see how TaxJar works, and ask any questions if you'd like. This is the pricing for our TaxJar reports, which gives you all the information you need to file on your own. If you'd like to use AutoFile, it's an additional $19.95 per filing per state. So depending on how many states you want to automate, some states can take you hours and hours. So if you think about the value of your time, $19 is typically a much better value than you spending hours on it. But you can choose if you want to automate certain states, or if you'd like to do it yourself, you can just use our reports, and it'll take you about 5 minutes to file most states. So that is our pricing. And then lastly, some of the resources. So if you have questions after this and you want to learn more and want to get to know us, we have our YouTube channel, youtube.com/TaxJar. We also have a sales tax community on Facebook. We have over 5,000. Actually, I think we have 7,000 now. This is a combination of not just customers, but different store owners and also tax pros. We've got a lot of accountants in there as well. So if you have any questions about sales tax, TaxJar or otherwise, join that community and ask them, and you'll get a lot of folks that are probably going through the same questions you have and have gone through the same things you have. So it'll be great for you to have a community to answer those questions. You can also reach out to us anytime at support@taxjar.com. We'll do our best to answer if we can, or direct you to someone like a CPA if it's more specific. And then lastly, I recommend checking out our blog. If you've done any research, hopefully you've landed on it through some Google searches. But blog.taxjar.com is our blog, and we have over 600 different articles on e-commerce and sales tax. So pretty much anything that's going on in a space, any legislation, any just random things like, Amazon now collecting sales tax in all 50 states. What does that mean for you as an Amazon seller? Anything that's going on. We also have guest posts from different channels like Zoey, etc. So anything that's going on with sales tax, check out our blog. You can subscribe and ask questions also on our blog. And then if you have questions and want to do a demo, or if you just want to talk to someone, we know, we're customers the same way, and we're people, so we know people want to just talk to people. So if you have any questions, this number I'm showing right now, you can call us anytime. It's also on the top of our website, so we don't hide it or anything. Look on the top of our website and get it later on if you've lost this slide. But you're more than welcome to talk to us and ask us questions, get a one-on-one demo, etc. We'd love to walk you through it. All right, questions. Any questions about sales tax or when to get started or how to get started? I know we went over a ton of information here. Kudos to you for sitting through this and understanding all of it. If you have any other questions, again, I shared some resources above, but we're here to help in any way.
Awesome. Well, first off, thank you, Lizzie, for that excellent presentation. We did get a lot of great information, and magically the slide that I had messed up on has been fixed. Uh, so while we set up for questions, we do want to remind everybody who's on here that you can submit your questions using the questions feature on GoToWebinar. Just simply use that box, send it in, it'll pop up on our screens here so we can answer the questions for you. If you have any questions, if you're watching the recording or if you think of it afterwards, you can always email me or contact TaxJar and we'll be happy to get you the answers as well. So don't worry if you don't have a question now, we're certainly willing to help you later. The first question I wanted to quickly touch on, Lizzie, I always like to just dive a little deeper into the pricing for the merchants so they have a better understanding, because I think it is a little different when you think about what quote-unquote API call. So you can't just like look at the number of orders you have, because you could have someone who goes a certain amount of the way into the cart and doesn't complete the transaction, and that may have still reached out to TaxJar. So one thing I just want sort of to underscore and talk to you about really quickly is about that. So how do you guys have a sense of how often like a non-sale happens, where like what should they be doing math-wise on their side to sort of factor in the fact that there may be calls that don't relate to a final transaction?
Sure. So that's a great question. It definitely varies by the type of store that you run and also kind of by how much you've optimized your checkout process. So it depends on at what point you, like if you have an estimate shipping or estimate tax button that's at the very beginning of your checkout or at the end. So placement can play a huge role in that too. I would say if people are trying to estimate that, like if you're looking at any kind of Google Analytics, that's another great place to kind of take a look at you specifically. How many drop-offs do you have at a certain page in your checkout that offers that functionality? If you don't have that functionality, then you don't really need to worry about that until the sale, like if you don't have any kind of estimation or if you for some reason don't have any cart drop-off. So I don't have a good number to share, but I would say I would look at some of those types of tools to give you some insight into kind of your analytics and look at your type of business.
Absolutely, yeah. So those of you who have Google Analytics and are familiar with it, I think that's a great tip. You can sort of look at how many customers get there. There is an estimate button inside Zoey, so the fact that that's there means that there could be customers who test it out, but it's not going to be a lot. There are not a lot of customers who are going to be using that button from our experience and our sort of tracking the use of that over time on some of our test stores and so forth. So I would say that, build a little bit of margin for error, but I would say probably not a lot, but I think it's just important to think about. And then the other question for you around that too is that, so every transaction will get checked even if it's not Nexus, right? Because it's going to call out and it's going to say, okay, you don't need to charge anything and send back a 0, right? They should also expect that?
I need to follow up. I don't know specifically how it works for that scenario. I believe, I don't want to make a call right now because I'm going to check and get back to you, so I'll let you know.
Okay.
You can share that back with folks. But one thing I will say is that our pricing, because we have monthly plans and there's no contracts or anything like that, you choose the best plan that you think fits your business. But if you have, a different month where, say, it's Black Friday and you go over the plan that you've chosen, we'll charge you the difference in plan to the next plan, but then the next month you go back down to the plan you're on. So if you go over your plan for a month, don't freak out or anything like that. It's just, hey, we'll charge you the difference, and we know things happen. And if you exceed your plan, a lot of times we'll probably recommend that you just upgrade just for billing purposes to make it easier on you so you're not being billed twice every time. But we know that it's hard to predict that number for you, and you can also connect to TaxJar and we'll import your trial data, and within that it'll show you how many API calls that you're making. So that's probably the best way to estimate it is start a trial and just kind of keep track of that for your own business.
Very good stuff. Yeah, and I mean, it'll be easy to ballpark. If you're getting 10 transactions a day, you don't need 50,000 calls a month, right? Like, it's not that drastic of a difference. I think it's just important for to think about it a little bit. One of the questions that's come in. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Our base plan starts at 1,000 transactions or 1,000 API calls. So if you're getting 10 transactions a month, you definitely would probably fall within our 1,000 or less basic plan for $19.
Yeah. Cool. One of the questions that we got in just asked to just review one more time the auto-filing costs. I think you covered that, but just the monthly fee does not include auto-file out. Auto-filing is a separate optional addition that they can do on top of that, correct?
Yep, correct. Sorry, I had a slide on that, but I think it somehow got deleted. But yes, the auto file is $19.95 per state per filing. So for example, if you file in California and you file quarterly, that $19.95 only gets charged every quarter. It's not a monthly charge. So the pricing that I showed is the monthly charges, but the auto file is an optional upgrade that only gets charged when we file for you. So it really depends on how much it's going to cost you based on the filing frequency you have with that state and how many states that you're filing in. So if you're filing in 10 states monthly, then yes, it'll be 10 times $19.95 every month. But if you're filing in some annual, some quarterly, et cetera, it can be a little bit different. So basically think about it. Anytime we go to actually submit your filing, it's the $19.95.
And what you've said is that the base subscription gives you the data you need to file, so you don't also have to automatically auto-file every single time to every single state. You can select and choose based on what you need to do to get your business done. If you have a really easy form, maybe you choose to take that one on, and California is really complicated, so you click the button and that kind of thing. You have complete carte blanche, basically.
Yep, exactly. So once you enroll in AutoFile, we won't unenroll you because people just want to enroll and be done.
Right.
But you have the option to just email us and we'll take you out of AutoFile. There's no big deal with that. So you can say, hey, I want to AutoFile this month and not next month. Or yeah, but everything you need to file, basically you're just going to be copying and pasting and dealing with due dates if you don't AutoFile. So you have everything you need, all of the breakdown of city, county, jurisdiction, municipal district, all of that is done for you in a report, and you just open up the e-file website of whatever state that you're on and copy and paste. Most people don't want to sit there and do that, but it's not difficult if you did want to do that. And then most people also don't want to deal with remembering when to file on time. So
perfect.
You have everything you need. All the calculations are done. It's just a matter of submitting it.
Got it. And then one last question for you, and unless any others get submitted in here before we wrap. Just quickly about the marketplaces, because you mentioned it a little bit, and how it can kind of detect when the amount collected doesn't match. How does TaxJar work as far as Amazon and eBay? Is there an integration, or is it you set it up manually and then it just audits after? I think that we have a lot of merchants that sell on marketplaces, so I think it's just good to briefly touch on that.
Yeah, definitely. So we integrate directly with Amazon, eBay, Square, PayPal, Etsy, and also if you have a custom marketplace that you're selling in, we have an API that's a modern RESTful API that you could build into if you have a development team. So the opportunities are all there. Specifically with Amazon and eBay and PayPal and I guess Square and Etsy, they're all direct integrations. So it's a one-click, you connect your account, and then we automatically continue to import your data. So you're not going to deal with CSV uploading or anything like that to get that data in every month. So if you sell multi-channel, it's a really great option. And that's definitely a pain point of sales tax filing is when you sell multi-channel, because the state wants to know what you sold in their state just as a business. They don't care what you sold on Amazon versus what you sold in your Zoey store versus what you sold in Etsy. So we combine all that data for you in all of our reports and all of our auto filing, and it's all automatic. And there's no additional charge for additional channels. It's all based on the number of transactions. So whenever you connect to any of these channels, it's based on the number of transactions you import, because we run every transaction that comes in through our API to make sure that we can A, create the reports for you, and B, make sure that you're collecting the right amount to let you know if we see an issue.
So basically then you have one TaxJar account, you can connect it to all of the different places that you sell online. It aggregates all the information, so that way when you file, it's all centralized and organized as it needs to be for the submissions.
Yep. And then we have a filing history, so you can go log in and see the filing history for things that we've auto-filed for you. Or if you're filing on your own, we have a little area where you can input manually what you filed. So that this is kind of your sales tax hub. So you don't need to remember to log into all these different states and figure out what you filed in the past. It'll all be stored within your TaxJar account.
Perfect. Well, I think that we don't have any other questions that have been submitted, so I think we'll call it a day. But I want to thank Lizzie for joining us today and providing such great information. Again, if you have any questions or if you have any feedback about these presentations, please be sure to email me, josh@zoey.com. If you have any TaxJar specific questions, you can also email me, or you can contact TaxJar directly, and either of us can get you the help that you need. And we do want to remind you that there will be more webinars to come, so definitely check out our merchant webinars page. We've got, actually, I think we're about 10 recordings in now, so there's quite a few topics, everything from shipping. Now we're going to have taxes, we have currency conversions, so lots of different topics that will help merchants who are trying to become more efficient or even save money. And with that, I want to thank everybody for joining us, and we'll see you at the next webinar. Thanks again, Lizzie.
Thanks so much, Josh. Appreciate it.